Welcome to 40 Fit Radio, where we bring you science-based, common sense information regarding fitness, health, and lifestyle for the 40-plus community. I'm your host, Darren Deaton, Doctor of Physical Therapy with 28 years clinical practice experience, starting strength coach, and certified CrossFit trainer. Forty Fit Radio, real people, real fitness, real health. Welcome to the 40 Fit Radio podcast. I'm your host, Coach D, and today we have the great opportunity to talk to my longtime business partner and close friend and lifting partner on some occasions when we get the opportunity to, Dr. Tina Neuwirth, Doctor of Physical Therapy. She's been a business partner with me for how long?
15 years.
15 years. She's better with numbers than I am. She's kind of the organizational brains of our practice. She keeps my other business partner, Matt Taylor, and I in order, and she's like the mother of the dangerous twins, the fighting brothers and dangerous twins. So today we're going to talk with T-Pain. That's what she likes to call herself. I know it's a little awkward, but that's what we're going to call her, T-Pain. No, we'll call her Tina. So today we're going to talk about women in fitness and your personal experience about how you have progressed in your fitness and how you have progressed in health through aging. And we won't tell the audience how old you are, but she is an official member of the 40 Fit Club. She's way into the 40 Fit Club.
I'm not into the 40 Fit Club.
She's into the club.
I'm in the club.
Yeah. And so she has a lot of practical experience, not only professionally as a doctor of physical therapy, also an orthopedic certified specialist, and also a CrossFit level 1 instructor or trainer. But she also just has a lot of personal experience as a lifter and as an athlete. And so we're gonna get some of that wisdom today and some of those nuggets of information so that we can share that with the audience and the broader community. So Tina, tell us a little bit about yourself personally first. Well, first let's decide how we met, and how long ago was that?
We met for the first time in 2000, actually, briefly when I was finishing up physical therapy school and I was looking for good places to work. I scheduled an appointment to come in and see you and meet with you. You were managing a bunch of practices and you were nice enough to take some time and meet with me, although I remember that you don't remember that. We met briefly at your clinic in Hurst.
I think I remember that. I think I remember that.
It might have even been 99. It was before I graduated. So it was 99, 2000. Briefly then. And then once I graduated, I had a job for a bit of time that wasn't the best fit for me. And I decided to make a change and came across you again because I interviewed at one of the clinics you were managing. Mm-hmm. Didn't end up wanting to work there because I wasn't crazy about the response from the manager after my interview, but you talked me into working for him.
Always.
Which I did for over a year, and then I came to work.
Gently persuading you with the talk of persuasion. That's, you know what we like to say in the clinic, if you have a hard patient, give them to me and they will be
putty in his hand.
Yes, exactly.
I was about to say the same thing.
And so tell us a little bit about your athletic background, a little bit about yourself as a kid and growing up, and then tell us a little bit about, what you did later in years fitness-wise.
Well, hopefully people don't tune out at this point because I think you've had some really excellent people on the podcast, and I don't know that I measure up in that respect, but growing up, I was a fairly active kid. I played the sports that you just automatically play in school. I grew up in this area, went to the Keller School District and, played volleyball and basketball and ran track. And as I got older, I realized I was okay at track. So I stayed in track, didn't really work as hard on the other two. And then by the time I got into high school, I was always a dancer. I was in dance since I was a kid. So I did drill team for a year. There was a bit of a political falling out there. And then I did cheerleading for my senior year. But I continued to run track a lot of that time. Did the 4x400 meter relay and ran the 800 and ran the mile. I was never stellar. But within the district at the time, I usually got second in the 800. If the girl that always beat me wasn't there, I won. But there was a girl that always beat me, right? And so that was pretty much it. I always enjoyed dance, and I enjoyed track, but the middle and shorter distances, they always tried to talk me into cross country, and that was not my thing.
Sure. Well, you're all leg. I mean, you got a ton of legs. I mean, very strong legs. You're a strong lifter. We'll
not
talk
long legs.
No,
they don't help me with rowing.
But we'll talk a little bit about some of her numbers and her size, which is pretty amazing, and her age combined. Those three things. She's a very proficient barbell lifter. Great form, great technique. Has definitely been a school of proper form and technique. It's just kind of the way we're wired to, and because of our profession. So movement quality is very important to us. So let's see. We opened the CrossFit gym in 2009, and you started coaching for me then. You got your level 1 CrossFit trainers certification.
That's probably a bit of an interesting place to go too, because I'm pretty sure that's the first time I ever touched a barbell. Was at the level 1 cert that we went to.
Yeah, that was a joy.
There's a good story there too with the end of the day Fran workout, because that was the first time I ever touched a barbell, and we were all standing around. There were a certain number of spots, and I'm standing there not wanting to be in the first group, and somebody points to an empty bar and says, "Why don't you go over there?" And I'd only ever done that workout with 12-pound dumbbells. And so I ended up, needing a spot on the end of my thrusters in that workout. And then you were in the group after me, I think, and I couldn't find you afterwards, is because you had decided to do strict pull-ups on
that's
the
all I could do.
workout. Those CrossFitters out there will know what I'm talking
background, all I could do was strict pull-ups.
And they timed us out at
10 minutes,
10 or 12 minutes, and you were still up there on the bar, and then I couldn't find you, and when I did, you were green. And it was lovely.
I've never thrown up after a workout. That's just not my thing. But let's just say I pretty much occupied that bathroom for about 45 minutes.
That's right, and I couldn't find you. I thought I'm going to have to call his wife and tell her that
he had a heart attack in the bathroom.
Passed out, hit his head.
Yeah, no, it was terrible, and obviously. Fast forward 9-10 years and fitness level much higher. A lot of injuries and a lot of challenges along the way. A lot of water under the bridge there. But we both CrossFitted for a long time, and I still think we use the elements of CrossFit, and we still do some what people would put air quotes on as CrossFit as our conditioning model for adjunctive conditioning.
Right.
But
with the caveat. Not as much heavy barbell work within a Metcon, so to speak. And, I've just found that makes me too sore. Doesn't allow me to train,
strength.
And it just, anything. I mean, it'll just slow you down too much. Not everybody, those 20-year-olds can do it for a while.
Right.
And then they'll
emphasis on a while.
Come to us later.
Yeah. Not that we like to create self-referral, but it did happen, out of the gyms. And so we saw a lot of our members and over the years programming for us, as I programmed for us, I think we both came to the realization over time that whatever we did, we wanted it to be sustainable.
Absolutely.
We wanted it to be something that we could do not just now and today. You never had an interest in competition. You never wanted to be a CrossFit athlete or competitor.
Much to your dismay for a while.
Yeah, she could have crushed it, by the way, guys. I mean, crushed it. Because if so we'll talk a little stats here. So you weigh about 125-ish, I think. You're about how tall? 5'4". 5'4". Very low body fat for a female. I usually check her body fat once a quarter.
The other day, it's not quite as low as it used to be, but
it's in the fitness athlete section of body fat or body composition ranges. And your squat, what's your 3-rep max? What was your last 3 RM? Or what was your last heavy single?
It's been a little while because I've had a lot of vacation this summer, which is a little unusual for me. But in the past year, I'd say I was working in the 235 range for sets. So that wouldn't have just been a top set. It would have been probably, at least 3x3 or 5x3. My heaviest ever was 245 for 9 reps. Though when I look back at the videos, I've probably wouldn't count it because my depth was just
So that was a 3x3.
Right.
A 3x3 set.
9
But
at
that was a
245.
working set.
My goal is I'd just love to get a double or a single at 250. Twice body weight would be awesome.
Yeah, very cool. And deadlift, what's your deadlift?
Best ever single was a 275.
Okay.
It probably should be heavier. Recent 255 for 3x3 in the last year or so.
And press?
That's not as good. However, that's the thing that I've been PRing most lately before all of my vacations. I think, I'd actually have to look. I think it may be a 92 and a half maybe.
Yeah.
And I think I missed a couple of sets, so that might have been 12 reps.
Yeah.
That's my best ever.
So none of these are singles. None of these are
No.
1 rep maxes or best efforts. These are working sets.
Right.
Sets that you're doing through 3x3s, 5x3s, or on the deadlift, it could have been 2 sets of 3, whatever you were doing. Or 3 sets of 3.
3 sets.
Yeah. And so you guys don't know Tina. Most of you guys, some of you guys may know Tina, but you don't know her face to face. But we just went on a partner trip where we took our spouses in our company and we all went on a vacation together, and we're all sitting around in bathing suits. And I'll just tell you that our wives look amazing. And Patrick, Tina's husband, is a metal artist that I've also done some training with. He's a fantastic metal artist. Shout out to Patrick at the Iron Chinchilla. If you need any metal art work done, or you're looking for someone that's very creative as a welder and with metal artwork, he's unbelievable.
Yes,
So,
modern work.
Yes.
We can refer you to somewhere for horseshoes and things like that. But
Right. No, his stuff is very modern and very asymmetrical, I would call it. So he's got a great eye for asymmetry. And but I'll just tell you, I was kind of looking around the resort we were at, and I was like, I think strength training looks pretty good on all of us. Looks good on our wives and looks good on us, and I think we should do this some more. So, but using the model of fitness that we have, I think has really worked well for us, and it's been sustainable. It's something that has good sustainability, which is very important to me as a coach and 40Fit, because my goal is to teach people something that they could do for the rest of their lives.
Right.
Maybe in varying degrees and
Absolutely.
tweak it along the way, but something we could do for the rest of our lives.
And I think that we have to stop there in talking about how strength training makes you look and clarify that, I don't know how many times I've had the conversation, but you're always going to get the pushback from women and sometimes even men. I won't mention his name, but I did have a PT intern. If he listens to this, he might know who he is, who said he didn't want to get bulky from strength training. And
no chance on that, mister.
So, my pants fit a lot better. And I've always, both because I've maintained strength
I said
through-
but not that I was looking. Sorry, honey. But no, I'm just saying, Tina has a nice shape. She's got a nice figure, okay? Let's just say it. Put it out there.
Well, thank you for that. Usually I get the, you
She's
look
turning red
okay
in the
for
face.
someone who has a mature body. But it's nice to get an actual compliment sometimes. But I've always had, I've always been thin. I've always been fairly small. I've always concentrated more on body weight movements. So pull-ups I've been able to do for a long time. So my arms are usually fairly defined. I get comments on that a lot. But I figured even if I could ever squat 300 pounds, my legs would probably still look like chicken legs. But,
No.
I think that's determined as much by genetics as anything.
Right.
And I think most people would be very pleased with the way they look if they strength trained. No worries about that.
Yeah,
If there's any ladies out there concerned.
Yeah, no barbell phobia that all of a sudden you're going to turn in the green Hulk when you just don't have the genetics for you.
Right.
Both men and women. There's some men that are going to get bulkier and some women that are going to get a little bit bulkier than other women based on their genetic structure, their bone structure, their body type, all those kinds of things. But you can work with a coach and figure out that very quickly just through eyes on.
Absolutely.
Looking at you and getting some general feedback about you. Okay, so tell us a little bit about, so I've kind of seen you at all different phases of life. I've seen you when you were young, crazy young. You're still young. You're in your early 40s.
Right.
And older than 42, but younger than 45.
I can't believe you even remembered that. You were
pretty-
trying to put me in the 40Fit club long before I belonged
that's
there.
That's just because I'm trying to give
And
you a
then
hard
you were
time.
in Hawaii on my 40th birthday and forgot that it was even my 40th birthday.
Oh, gosh. Coach
Calling
D
you out.
is not very good when it comes to birthday, giving gifts, or remembering things of significant importance. So there you have it. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of seen you from very early in your almost your 20s.
I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
We would have met when I was 25, 26.
Okay, so there you have it, all the way into your 40s through 3 children.
Right.
Right. And so let's talk about, as a woman, how you have used your fitness or what you have done about your fitness through your pregnancies and how it has helped you or what your experience has been.
Right. Well, we had not yet discovered CrossFit. When I became pregnant for the first time. Never forget telling you guys that too. Ugh, scary.
Yeah.
But
she's worried I was going to find a new partner.
we worked through all of that.
Yeah, we worked well.
But I was running at the time. I had a routine. My little old house, I'd run. It was about a mile and a quarter down to the end of the road and then back. And when I got back, I would do push-ups and dips and some ab work. I started pretty early, I guess maybe when I was pregnant or even before, doing research on women and pregnancy and exercise, and always knew that all the research supports exercise and pregnancy. I've done seminars and things on it, and I think there's more women out there now than ever that are proof that there's no harm in exercising when you're pregnant. So I did that, and then a lot of the literature, things I came across said stop running in your second or third trimester, and first baby, you don't know what to do. So I did. I stopped running and started doing the elliptical at work and continued with, body weight arm things.
Yeah,
and
sure.
That pregnancy, unfortunately, it was a super great pregnancy up until the very end. I ended up with something called HELP syndrome and also preeclampsia. Thankfully, I was blessed that she was full term at the time. Most people that have that have premature babies, and I've known at least 2 women that had premature babies with those same conditions. So I was blessed that she was full term, but that was not the delivery that I wanted.
Sure.
My doctor knew that I wanted an unmedicated, natural delivery, and he tried to let me go as long as I could. But it became apparent that both the baby and I would be in trouble if we continued. So I actually had to have a C-section, and I had to be under general anesthesia by the time we made that decision. So thankfully, I woke up quickly and was able to nurse her, and I got back to doing just about everything really fast. I actually tried running, I remember, about 5 weeks afterwards, and I was like, that's not going to work just yet. But I got back pretty quickly. And then my second pregnancy was actually when you read the CrossFit article, and you said, you got to try this. And I was in my second trimester probably by then, and that was my biggest baby, so I was feeling huge. I was like, maybe later. So
let's put a caveat in there of this. If you're presently doing an exercise program,
right,
and you end up being pregnant, you become pregnant, then continuing exercise is a-okay. It's
Absolutely.
fine. I mean, the research supports that. It's healthy for you and the baby. And there does come a time when you have to alter some activities and change methodology based on the type of fitness training that you're doing, whether it is barbell work, CrossFit, running, yoga, Pilates, whatever you're doing, cardiovascular, just cardio work. But if you're not exercising at all, and you get pregnant and you want to start training like CrossFit or barbell training or something else, what is the consensus on that?
Most doctors would tell you not to do that. Most doctors are going to tell you to just walk and keep up with your normal activity. What I tell women, because I've counseled lots of women who are pregnant before, during, after, about their workout routines, is the cool thing about women in general, and especially I think when we're pregnant, is we're just hyper aware of what's going on. So if something doesn't feel right, just don't do it. There's no reason. That's your body telling you that you might not be okay with that, and better safe than sorry. But for the most part, what I have found with myself and with other people is that once they start to test themselves a little and see what they can do, they realize they can do a lot more than they thought they could. And it's interesting. I warn people that I thought the first trimester was actually the hardest.
Right.
That's when your blood volume increases, and it just feels like your heart is going to pound out of your chest. And you're thinking, I just did this 4 weeks ago when I didn't know I was pregnant yet. And I was a little tired, but this is terrible. And it's a tired like you'll never feel in that first trimester. And I actually thought it got a little easier, even when I got a little bit bigger. Now, I hated rowing, your stomach's in the way. But really, I felt better once my body got accustomed to being pregnant. And I was able to do a lot of things. I'm kind of conservative, so things like being inverted, I stopped doing that after a while. It just didn't feel right to me. I didn't do double unders or running after a while because when you get big, there's stress on your pelvic floor, and I just didn't want to mess with that nonsense. So I would sub other things. Some women do it all the way through. I've seen videos and.
Well, I've got pictures of you that we could throw up somewhere, I'm sure, and of you doing pull-ups.
Right.
Was that your third baby or second baby?
That was my third.
Third baby, and you're.
I was
7 months.
Weeks. So I was I delivered her pretty close to her due date. So I was about 2 weeks from delivery.
Okay, and you're doing pull-ups.
Right. Actually, the day before I had her, I did a workout with a 53-pound kettlebell and pull-ups.
Yeah. So there you have it, and you were still lifting. You were still doing some barbell lifting.
I PR'd a lot of my lifts in my third trimester with my.
There you have it, guys. So man up, guys. If you're not if you're not pregnant, okay, and you're not PRing, then you're really just a puss. No, I'm just joking. Sorry, guys. I'm talking to the guys, not the ladies. When I say guys, okay, you ladies are all tough because you have great pain tolerance and you have babies, and that's hard to do. So. All right, so CrossFit and barbell training through your last baby?
Yeah, so that second, when you found CrossFit, I started CrossFitting. We went to our cert when Jesse, my middle
August?
child, was, so he was...
August
he was born in
2008.
November, so he was 7 months old.
Yeah.
I had to pump. I had to go in the in the restroom and pump. I was nursing at the time. That was fun. During a couple of certs, actually, I had to do that. One of the instructors walked into the office they were letting me use once. That was fun. But so we started CrossFitting after that, and I started lifting and everything after my second. So by the time I was pregnant for the third time, I was
you had a plan.
Lifting, and I just kept doing what I was doing. Actually, around that time, I found the CrossFitMom.com website, and they recommend pretty conservatively to go down to 50 or 60% of your weights. And so I did that again because I'm a rule follower, and I'm pretty conservative, and that just felt like not nearly enough. So as my pregnancy continued, I just figured whatever feels okay. And like I said, I PR'd some lifts during I have some cool pictures and video, I think, in my third trimester doing some back squats and things like that. And
your babies were healthy, and I think that's important for, guys can't relate to that. I mean, I can't relate to you saying that, but I know that there's a lady out there who's listening to this program, or there's a lady out there in their 50s that has a younger daughter who's in her 20s and she exercises, and maybe that conversation has come up and she's pregnant now, and she's trying to tell her or give her some level of advice, or mom's advice, or some level of, I guess you would say, dispel concerns whether or not it's appropriate to continue to exercise. So I think these kinds of conversations are great, and it's good for husbands or fathers to hear too, so they know that they can be supportive and not have unreal fears. The fear is false expectations appearing real, not having fears that are just really inappropriate and not supported by research.
And I have talked to a number of women through the gyms, through being a coach.
We had one.
Multiple. And I think every single one has gotten some comfort from the conversation, from the fact that I knew the research and continued to train. And every single one of them had healthy pregnancies, good deliveries, healthy babies, with the exception of one who had HELLP syndrome and preeclampsia. But
she'd had it the prior baby too.
And I should say, you talked about healthy babies and deliveries and everything. I had mentioned how I had to have that C-section my first pregnancy. Well, my second one, stubborn as I am, I wanted that delivery that I wanted. So talked to my doctor. I had a doula all 3 times, which is, money well spent. And so we work together to.
What is a doula?
They assist with. They do all kinds of things. They can do counseling. They can do assist with the birth. Usually,
Kind of like a midwife.
Kind of like that, but not with the same. They don't usually do the delivery.
Right,
they assist with labor.
Sure.
And they can help with breastfeeding afterwards and answer questions. Sure. And
I thought it was like grandmother in Hungarian or something because I know you're Hungarian.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
So I had the doula, and so second pregnancy, man, I was gonna do that delivery.
Yeah.
And boy, that was rough, but it was a satisfying deal. I was in labor for 32 hours.
I remember that.
And he was my biggest baby, so my first actual delivery that way with a 9-pound baby.
Yeah.
And
That's Jesse.
oh man, yeah. And he's still the biggest, my boy.
Yeah, he's got a big head.
He does.
He's a big head.
He does. And I was told then, that my pelvic floor was so strong, I was probably in a rip.
Yeah.
And so that was lovely. And I thought I was more sore. Any CrossFit workout or training that you've ever done, I was more sore after that. 32 hours.
Maximal
trying
PR
every
effort,
position to try to,
that is a personal record right there.
Yes. So, but I was able to deliver. And then my last one was my daughter, and she was my smallest just by a few ounces. My two girls were about the same size. And that delivery was pretty much exactly how you want a delivery to go. It was about 24 hours of labor, but it started slow. With Jesse, my labor was labor the whole time. It started slow and it increased. My doctor was not on call, so I got another doctor who we know in the area. Sure. And we ended up talking about training, lifting weights and everything at the time because he wanted me to Valsalva to push and
hear that, guys, Valsalva, and she didn't stroke out.
That's right. My doula and my husband both started saying, "Oh, well, she weight trains, she knows about that." And then he started talking about what he does, and so I'm delivering.
And you were using starting strength at the time. You were using barbell training.
We had started some, I think, we had started doing some strength cycles. We weren't full on into starting strength at the time, but. And that was my best delivery.
Cool.
It was my quickest, my easiest recovery. And, strength certainly helped.
So as you got fitter, your pregnancies became easier. I mean, there were some other factors too, but you were the oldest, but you were also the fittest and the most experienced too. So there were a lot of things, but pretty much your diet remained the same and everything
pretty
else.
Much, yeah.
And I know you're a clean eater. You're generally a clean eater. It shows by your body composition. You got low body fat, high muscle mass, lean mass. So we'll talk a little bit more. I think we're going to have Tina back on later, and we're going to talk specifically about some female issues that are out there, things like urinary incontinence, other female issues that we'll talk about in the future, and be looking forward to those podcasts. But so now we've got 3 babies on the ground, and we're strength training. We're living our life. You break the 40 mark, finally enter the club. I've been waiting since I'm a lot older than you. And so what's life like today? Tell me what you're doing strength training wise. Tell me what you're doing conditioning wise, and tell me what your health and fitness is like today.
So I started following the starting strength model back, how long ago was that? Maybe 2 years? When
at least probably 3 years.
Two or 3 years when you actually implemented that within our gym as our kind of base training model. And I started...
That'd be 3 years ago.
Right. Okay. So 3 years ago, started doing that. And I was still doing, you were still programming CrossFit workout too. And I've always been very consistent with... Well, I say always. I am very consistent now with 3 days a week. I used to, when the kids were younger and my schedule was a little different and life was a little simpler, I used to train 3 days in the gym and I'd go for a run once or twice a week, put the kids in the jog stroller.
Sure.
That got challenging when they got a little older. I had a double jog stroller, super old. But anyway, I used to be able to maintain 5 days a week, 2 conditioning and 3 days in the gym, lifting and doing a CrossFit workout. as I got a little bit older, life got busier. I cut down to kind of 1 running day and 3 days in the gym. And then now life just won't allow for those other days. And to be honest, I don't know that I could do it anymore. So now I'm in the gym 3 days a week. And really the only time I take a break is if my schedule changes, if I'm off work, if I'm not in the clinic, if I'm not going to the gym, it's too hard to work it in.
Yeah, it's kind of like a life deload.
Exactly.
It's a life deload.
And I heard you talking about that earlier today with somebody, and that's exactly what it is. And usually around that time, I feel like I need that anyway.
Sure.
So, but I'm real consistent 3 days a week when my schedule is what it is. And I lift. I do follow the starting strength model. I have gotten to the point where I was on an intermediate program. I've done a modified Texas method. I've done a heavy, light, medium. And then I've been on so much vacation that I usually deload when I come back. I go back to a linear progression for a while until I feel like I've kind of hit a place where I need to do something different. And then I go back to like a heavy, light, medium.
Textbook. It's good.
Right. Yeah, just good. Simple. And then I try to do 2 conditioning workouts a week.
Me too. Very similar there.
Mostly now I stick with more of a monostructural, like a row or a
So tell them what we did the other day.
Yeah, so
that was crushing.
First day back
that was
vacation.
So fun. Let's do that again. No.
That was your idea.
I know. What was I thinking?
I don't know.
You should have poked me in the eyeball. We took a picture of us because it's about 10 years after our first workout together.
In the first CrossFit gym.
In the first CrossFit gym. Almost 10 years ago, and we took a picture of each other. I look cachectic. I look like I have cancer. We both look like we're emaciated and skinny fat. And
the clothes.
Yeah. Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
My shorts were like
her workout clothes are much sexier now and much nicer. And mine are basically just shorts and a t-shirt, so it's the same. But we are a little cooler. But we're older. Look,
that's
we're
right.
cooler,
I know.
but we're older.
We look better. We need to post those side by side. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But so I came in the other day after a week of vacation to check out the new facility.
Right. Which we're in the studio of today.
We're
in the 45th studio in the new gym, which is for Strength and Conditioning in Keller, Texas.
And I was thrilled that you had air conditioning.
Yes.
And we trained. I had just deloaded. So I did pretty lightweight that felt heavy enough for the day. And you said, are you going to do any conditioning? I said, I need to do a row, maybe some planks or something. And you said, let's do a 5,000 meter row. And I said, no. Yeah. And you said, let's do a 2,500 meter row. And I said, I don't know.
So then I compromised.
Actually, I think you originally suggested that we hop on those terrible bikes.
Yes. The Rogue Echo, I call it Satan's Cycle.
And I flat out refused that. So then we got to the rowing discussion. And then you said, well, why don't we do a partner row? We'll each do 500 until we get to 5,000. And so that's what we did. Yeah,
so we did 500 meter intervals so you could do a little bit faster pace because you have the 1-to-1, a little bit more than 1-to-1 rest or 1-to-1 rest.
You had a little more rest than I did.
Yes. And so, but you do 500 meters, kind of moderate to I would say
3/4.
Moderate
effort.
to 3/4. Yeah, 3/4 efforts. Sprint, and then then you step off the rower and your partner hops on and they do their 500 meters, and we just worked up until we built up. So we did 5 intervals with 5 rest intervals in between, and so it ended up being a little over 20 minutes of total time, but we each worked 10 minutes. Yeah. And so that's how it worked out.
There you go.
Yeah. But it was great. That's a perfect example of really good conditioning programming. You get a big bang for your buck because you're only in the gym for 20 minutes. You're only working for 10 minutes at a higher intensity level. You get that really good hormonal response after you lift. And if you are we've talked about this, and we're going to talk about this some more in the future when we do a podcast on concurrent strength training and cardiovascular or conditioning and endurance work. But if you're going to combine the two things together, same day bout is the best. Always lift first and then follow it up with some type of high intensity interval training that is a controlled volume, a little bit higher intensity, so you get that good hormonal anaerobic response both. Right. And I think we were trashed pretty good at the end.
That was great.
The last round
and that's way more fun than just doing it by yourself. My other favorite one that I like to do is a 400 meter row, 400 meter run, alternating. Yeah. Or doing something with like a farmer's carry. Yeah. Kettlebells I still do sometimes. Wall balls I still do sometimes, but I avoid any of the like Olympic lifts in a workout anymore. I definitely don't do heavy dumbbell lifts. Back in the
Yeah,
CrossFit
sure,
Open a couple
sure.
of years ago. They started with those heavy dumbbells, and
Yeah.
man, I got some lateral epicondylitis, medial epicondylitis,
Yeah.
and it took me a good
Itis
7
is-
months to
yeah.
get rid of that. And I thought about it. I was like, there's just no good reason for that.
Yeah.
You know, it derailed my training for a while.
Well, one thing I like about you in the gym, and the reason why you'll be a part of our new gym here, eventually in our coaching staff, is you work towards eventually your SSC one day in the
Right.
future, and that is that's starting strength coach. Is that you've just got a really good balanced perspective on fitness. You've never let your ego, even though you're extremely competitive, don't be fooled by the fact that
Right.
if you're in the gym
I
with
don't
her,
compete.
she wants to crush you. And she wants to crush you and then spit on your grave. But she will want to crush you if she thinks she's competing against you. But she doesn't want to be a competitive CrossFitter. She never did. She doesn't want to be a competitive lifter. She just loves to compete against herself.
Right. I just want to better myself.
But you never let your ego get in the way of that. So I really think if you listen to our emotional intelligence podcast,
Right.
very emotionally intelligent, very self-aware, a good sense of self-awareness that's a right perspective. And so I love that in the gym because I think our members and I think the community at large and the 40 plus community needs to hear that and realizes that it's like we've talked about, it's the Toby Keith syndrome. I'm not as good as I once
Right.
was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. But you have to be careful that you don't live like that. Try to live like that every single day.
Right. And I think, it it needs to be said that some of that just comes with experience and maturity
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
I mean,
age.
there, have been times when I've done things that my brain told me I could do or should be able to do.
Sure.
And, have hurt myself. Thankfully, never badly,
Right.
nothing major, nothing that derailed me for more than a little while.
Right. Not like your business partner. So.
That's true. I remember that, that CrossFit competition where you finally blew out your back.
Yeah, exactly. Man, you learn some things about the past, and hopefully they're learning experiences if you don't repeat them. And so, I think what we both kind of learned when it came to conditioning is that the barbell should be used for strengthening,
Right.
strength training, and power production. If you're doing like power cleans
Sure.
or something like that for explosive power in the hips and stuff, that's fine. But in regards to conditioning workouts, when time is oriented or speed is in there or you're getting highly fatigued, then the heavy barbell lifts, the deadlifts, the power snatches, even sometimes power cleans and squat snatches, and maybe every now and then a thruster we might put in a workout, a light thruster, but we've kind of removed barbells
Right.
from metabolic conditioning.
And I think, it probably bears to be said that a lot of this, I just saw a post by an Olympic lifter that I respect, and I think she's a smart, she's got great form. She teaches, and she just put out an article about how everybody kind of dogs CrossFit about doing repetitive movements like that in their workouts. And her argument was very sound for the lifters that she probably works with. She said, what's wrong with trying to repeat exactly with perfect form a movement over and over again? That would help your movement patterns. And while I agree with that, I feel like most of the time
That's
in
not
a
what
workout,
happens.
that's not at all what
Right,
happens.
right.
Even with myself, and I pride myself on trying to maintain good form, and you get tired and you're trying to keep up with other people in the gym, and
Sure.
those workouts are
It's just natural.
designed to help with camaraderie and competitiveness,
Right.
and you're trying to keep up with the person next to you, and your form is going to break down. So I think if you have a good coach, maybe if you're working on your Olympic lifting and somebody is watching you, that would be fine.
Right.
But for me,
Sure.
it's not productive.
Right. Well, and I think I look at it in regards to its functional correlation. What are we going to do with this? The word functional. There's air quotes, wrist air quotes going in the room. But what's functional? The press is functional because we lift overhead.
Sure.
The squat is functional because we squat all day long. And the deadlift's functional because we hinge at the hip to bend over and
Right.
pick things up.
And even the clean is
So,
functional.
Yeah, the clean is very
Picking up
functional.
a heavy bag of something off the ground, throwing it into a
That's
truck.
right.
Even a thruster could be functional.
Sure could. Yeah, picking something up and throwing it
Mm-hmm.
over your head, away from the ground, or up onto a shelf really high. But I think in general we could say that a lot of the movements that we see in a lot of gyms today, they're when they're done in a competitive environment like that, they're not. Form is not their focus.
Right.
And so we've kind of decided that in the gym, The barbells stay on the platform for resistance training and every now and then come out for power cleans and then maybe a thruster every now and then. Other than that, we won't be using deadlifts in workouts. We won't be using back squats and conditioning workouts and things like that.
And I think you've got to know your coach and the person who's programming. But I've seen and talked to lots of athletes who've gotten themselves into trouble by doing workouts that they weren't ready for. They had no idea they weren't ready for them because they had a good enough engine. You and I have talked about this before. Yeah. Somebody's got a good engine and a good ability to push themselves, they can really get themselves into trouble. And we've talked to multiple athletes who've gotten rhabdomyolysis from doing a lightweight workout that would not have been a heavy weight for them, but they did it for reps and they were doing it for time and, get themselves into trouble. So that's definitely not what we want to promote. And that's certainly going to derail your training for a long, long time, if not more than that. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's important for the audience to hear what we're saying here. We're not bashing on CrossFit or any other methodology that uses conditioning or time-based or work-based programming.
Right.
What we're really saying is that form should be first in your mind. Your overall training goals should be priority to you. And whatever you're doing in the gym, it should not be getting hot, sweaty, and tired. It should be training that is producing a specific outcome. What I think that is very effective for the older population, for the masters population, is to whatever input they put in, it's methodical, it's well thought out, so they're producing a specific output. Right. And you're less likely to get injured and more likely to get a better return on your investment when you do it that way.
Absolutely. And I think that, you brought up a good point that, we certainly don't bash on any other methodology. Right. I touched my first barbell within the CrossFit world. I never would have been introduced, and I know others have talked about this on other podcasts that I've listened to, that so many people would never have been introduced to Olympic lifting or to powerlifting, to barbells at all without the CrossFit world.
Well, I think CrossFit has done a whole lot to raise the bar in the fitness industry in regards to things being more demonstrative and more evidence-based in a lot of areas. Some of the metabolic science, the conditioning science, the performance factors and variables that they produce. I mean, when you look at the top 10 athletes in the world at the CrossFit Games, they're athletes.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're professional athletes. They're unbelievable, unparalleled athletes. Very, very strong. But a lot of those athletes actually shut down the conditioning program for a while and do weightlifting, barbell training. And then they do a cycle of Olympic weightlifting or weightlifting. And then they do a cycle of gymnastics and bodyweight work. So they train and they don't necessarily compete all the time. And what I see in a lot of CrossFit gyms is just constant competition. Right. Constant competitive style workouts.
And I think there's a couple of problems with that model that became a problem for me. When I first started out, it was great. I show up at the gym, I look at what's on the board,
you do it.
And that's what I do.
Yeah.
People want to be told what to do. They don't want to have to come up with it on their own. They don't want to have to think about it. They just want to do.
And they get fit no matter what.
Absolutely.
They get a much higher level of fitness.
Especially when they weren't that fit to begin with. If you do anything, you're going to get fit. But the problem with that becomes that there eventually is a time where you will stop progressing and you can't get any better. And to keep trying, you will eventually injure yourself. And then you're not feeling as good and you don't want to do it. And that's the problem. And the other problem, I think, is that people think that anybody can program. And that's absolutely not true. There's so much programming out there that just doesn't make any sense. And I look at it and I'm thinking, even from a competitive CrossFitter's standpoint, I'm looking at this workout and it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I used to have members of our gym. We had three CrossFit gyms, as you know, and I used to have members of our gyms travel to other gyms when they were traveling on business or pleasure, whatever, and they come back and they said, "Man, we did this, and then we did this, and then we did this, and then we did this." I was like, "What, is that over like 2 or 3 days?" And they're like, "No, it's the same day.
One workout."
I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." It's just, there's no, it'd be like me giving a person with mild hypertension the highest blood pressure medication dosage I could give them. It's
multiple medications.
Right. It's not, yeah, exactly. Polypharmacia. So it's not the right dosage. It's not the right titration. And some of that has nothing to do with CrossFit and everything to do with individual business ownership and coaches who are programming these gyms ensuring that they understand the physiological implications, the physical implications to what they're putting out there on their membership base. And so, well, that's enough about that. But I think what you and I have both learned a lot of, and we said this earlier in the podcast, is that we found something that's sustainable, right, that we can do. We barbell trained the other day. It was great. It was great to have you here in the gym and then us do that little conditioning workout. And so is there anything else you'd like to say about your fitness, about your business, about something else, some advice you'd like to give our audience, especially for that female who is maybe training right now or thinking about training and is over the age of 40?
I think the main thing that I feel like I bring to the table is balance. That's why I never competed. That's why I don't want to compete right now. Maybe someday when I'm in an older master's class and all my kids are out of the house and who knows what's going on with the business, I'll feel like I have time for that. But I'm a wife. I take care of a lot of things around our house. My husband and I have a good balance of what he does and what I do. But, I'm a wife. I'm a mom. My kids are at an age where they're old enough to do some things for themselves, but I still want to be around and be involved. And I'm a business partner. Yeah. I'm a physical therapist, doctor of physical therapy, and then I've got to maintain my own health and fitness. And so I think that you have to find a balance of what works for you. A lot of people just can't find the time or think they can't fit it in. But there's a way. You just have to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, you run most of the organizational background for our practice when it comes to HR, compliance, contracting. You help me with the books now, accounting, payables and all that stuff. And then you see patients too, and you have 3 kids, and you have a thriving marriage, and you're very active in your church and your community. Mm-hmm. One thing I've always loved about you is that you never let your fitness life become your life. Right. And you really have a good balance on using fitness as something that improves or augments your quality of life, makes your life better, but it's not your career, it's not your life. Even though you're a health and fitness expert, you always kept your family and your kids and your husband and your personal life in line and kept that in a balance. And it's really a good balance. It's a
right. And I think that's the point to drive home is that it can be done. You can be balanced like that. You can be strong and you can look the way you want to look, and you can do that. I think the 2 best examples I thought of when I was thinking about what we might talk about is, my fitness has a purpose, like you said, when my kids were younger, they like to go to the pool and they like to be thrown up in the air at the pool. Yeah. And I've got pictures of me hoisting the kids up into the air, throwing them up in the air. I think one of Patrick's favorite pictures is of me doing that with Brenna, when she was not so small. And, stuff like having a delivery guy come to the house, delivering, I think it was a couch, and saying, "Is your husband around to help me get this out?" And I went over and lifted up the end of it. Said, "No, we don't need him. I can do this. He's not here right now, but I'll help you out."
There you go, Patrick.
He was but this delivery guy was, 150 pounds overweight. And I'm thinking, I could probably deadlift more than you. Give me the thing. I'll take it in. And
that's great.
And then we just went on a trip to California, and we wanted to go on a hike, and we picked this hike that went down 1,000 feet in elevation. Then we had to come back up with all these switchbacks, and it was all in the heat. And I felt great doing that. That's the kind of stuff I want to be able to do and not have to think about it. Went rock climbing with my sister a few years ago in California. That's the kind of thing I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't maintain my fitness. Right. But my fitness is not to go, and nothing wrong with, I think it's a great goal to go do a powerlifting competition, but my goal is not to go sit around in a gym for a day waiting for my turn on the platform. I want to go rock climbing. I want to go hiking. I want to throw my kids around. I want to be able to move my furniture if I want to rearrange the house, That's the kind of stuff that I want to be able to do.
No, and that's the kind of fitness that we promote. It really, whatever someone's outcome or desired goal is the key. And as coaches, we try to program to that, so it's outcome driven. It's going to be driven based on what their own personal goals are. And so, well, Tina, it's been awesome to have you on the podcast here, and I'm sure we're going to have her as a guest in the future, talking about specific topics that relate to health and fitness, women's issues, women's health, also physical therapy issues as we begin to start to dissect and have podcasts on specific health issues like low back pain and lateral epicondylitis and shoulder tendonitis and rotator cuff syndrome and all those kinds of things. But it's been great to have you on here. And I don't tell you this often, but I greatly appreciate everything you do in our practice and everything you've done in the gym over the years. And she's a great example of what a healthy, strong woman can look like and do within her community and within her family. If you want to reach out to Tina, what's a good way for our audience to get a hold of you?
Probably email at the clinic, which is tina@riatatherapy.com, spelled RIATA therapy.com. Or you can, I don't post a ton. It's mostly stuff about my family, but you can check out Instagram. I'm T Neuwirth, TNEUWIRTH.
T-Pain? No, just
TH.
Yeah. NEUWIRTH. T Neuwirth on Instagram. Well, guys, thanks for joining us today on the 40 Fit Radio podcast. You can find out more information about this podcast and others at 40fit.com and also on Instagram at 40 Fit Radio. My Instagram is at DL Deaton, DEATON. Loved having you on the podcast today, Tina. Loved having all of our audience on the podcast today. And everybody get out there. 40 Fit Radio, real people, real health, real fitness.